Howdy.
Howdy.
Let us know if our sound is okay. If we've got the infamous echo, we'll never know until we're live whether it happens or not. So I'm back, and this time I'm with Kaal, who is
Hello.
An ex-Mormon.
I am.
I was trying to think how we met the other day, and wasn't we in a Facebook group that was to do with
Child abuse.
That was it. Yeah, I was thinking it was to do pedophiles, child abuse, human trafficking.
It was
And then
Heathens Against Child Abuse, which that group I believe got taken down because I haven't seen it in a minute.
Oh, I haven't checked.
Wouldn't surprise me. Zuck is not a fan of people who are against pedophiles. I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then
for
I think
for legal reasons, that was a joke.
Before we get took off the air straight.
Yeah, don't want to get you a slander charge.
Yeah, so then I think I must have mentioned in there that I was an ex-Jehovah's Witness and about the child sex abuse problem. And then you mentioned
me actually.
Okay, because then you mentioned about being a Mormon, and then I got you to come on TGT where we did cults versus cults.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to do something more with you on a personal level and get more to what you went through, like.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you become to be Mormon?
So I was Mormon because the rest of my family is Mormon, which is something that is going to happen. I'm sure yours was similar, where you're just kind of raised in it. It's just kind of what everyone else had adopted before you ever had a say in it. And in my case, it was my grandfather's fault, which I guess is a way of saying it. It was my grandfather's father, really, because when my grandfather was a kid, they would kind of bounce around a lot between a lot of religions. And for some reason, the LDS church just stuck with him.
Right.
So that's what I was always raised in. I did. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I did have a conversation with my grandfather recently, where he likes to say that he's not Mormon. He's just like, yeah, he's baptized and he goes to all the temple and all that, but he likes to think of himself as more of like just a general Christian. You know what I mean? Like follower of Jesus, not Mormon. He's Mormon. Strange man. The LDS church is not the only thing that caused trouble later in my life, but I don't know. I now live with my mother and my sister, and none of us are practicing. It was mostly my grandfather.
See, mine came from my grandfather as well.
Yeah.
Got passed down. So, growing up as a Mormon, how was it for you as a kid?
I imagine it wasn't as bad for me as it would have been were I a Mormon somewhere else. I did have the benefit of I live in St. George, Utah, which is very, very large Mormon population here. It's an overwhelming majority of the city. I'd go so far as to say, but when you grow up with a bunch of Mormons, it's not as bad because you have that community, which I'm sure is something that they factor in the higher ups. But I don't know. It's strange growing up having everything told to you, but in a less than satisfactory way. You know what I mean? I apologize if that's kind of convoluted. It's I had a friend as a kid who wasn't like super Mormon. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like as devout as I was. I was a very devout as a kid because it was pressured into me. But I remember having friends and they would swear or something. You know what I mean? And as a kid who's raised up, it's drilled into you, and then you say some stupid shit to an 8-year-old like, "Hey, you should pray for forgiveness," and then everyone thinks you're the weird kid. So it could have been better, could have been worse, I guess. My neighborhood was mostly just boomer Mormons. Now this neighborhood has tons of young folk to interact with were I still their age, but kind of lonely, I guess, is the long story short of that. I'm sorry to make this so long-winded.
So Was there anything that you wasn't allowed to do, like any movies or anything like that was banned? Any music that was banned?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, kind of in order, films, anything rated R, which, I mean, as a kid, makes sense. I wasn't as kind of filtered, as censored as other kids in my ward. There's a kid up the street who couldn't, like, even some PG-13 movies were just 100% off limits to that family. And I remember once when I was a kid, I said frickin' A, and that sent his mother ballistic. Like, he wasn't allowed to come over for like a month because of that.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's definitely a lot that they kind of, is verboten. Swearing, obviously. My grandmother was kind of old fashioned, so she wouldn't let me say words like crap because she thought it was crass. But that did not last long. When you're not allowed to say any of the other swear words, you're going to find other swear words to say.
Yeah.
And,
we used to say flipping heck a lot, and then my mum was like, but you're just substituting another swear word for that. And it's like, well, yeah, like, and I've never forgotten my brother once said crap because my sister had like these cheap gym plimsolls that he threw down the stairs and went in their crap. And she told our mum, and then they washed his mouth out with washing up liquid for saying crap. And it's like, that's not even like classed as a proper swear word either. So it was, and we got told we couldn't say prat because an elder told me that. No, was it prat? No, chuffed. I think prat meant that was it. We couldn't say prat because it meant pregnant fish, and we couldn't say chuffed because it meant you were sexually satisfied.
I've never heard either of those words in my life.
Yeah, so it was just like the proper like English words. But so as a kid, like, because we was told we couldn't watch stuff with magic in as well because it was like satanic. So did you guys have the whole that satanic deal?
That's kind of hard to answer. So this is actually, I think this is going to go in with what I mentioned to you the other day with Aerosmith. So
yeah.
So in Sacrament Meeting, which is the first meeting of church is 3 hours long. Sacrament Meeting is an hour of it. It's the first hour. It also 100% feels like the longest. But during Sacrament Meeting, you have, everyone kind of sat out, and I'm sure the Kingdom Hall is similar, but at the front of the room, you have kind of a raised area, little wall, little podium, microphone, and then you have all the important people of the church who are sat up there in a line, and they just kind of take turns giving a speech about something, basically. You'll have the bishop, I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the title, but it's step under the bishop. And then you have like some of the quorum leaders and stuff, and they'll just get up there and they'll give a 15-minute speech about whatever. And one of them was, actually, that was during a, how did I forget the word for that? I'm so sorry. It's
it's been a long time, isn't
it? It has been a long time. It's coming up on 7-8 years. Anyway, so every few months you have a day where you don't really need to go to church on Sunday. Instead, they broadcast it from Salt Lake. They have a big direct from the president, like full thing. And usually it's televised. However, every 6 months, I believe, you have one where you go into the church. Everyone from every ward comes into the church and you all watch it on the live. And on one of those, there was a member of the quorum, which is a important church collective. It's a group of people that they're really important. Right. And he was talking about how we as Mormons, we need to stand by our guns and not be embarrassed and, not be afraid to show who we are. And he was talking about how he was on an aeroplane and he was sat next to the vocalist from Aerosmith. And everyone was talking, like, oh man, the guy from Aerosmith is here, freaking out. And he basically like told the guy like, hey, you need to stop making Satan music for children. Like, and he was like, see, I said it to this big important guy from this band. You guys should not be afraid to say it to anyone. And as I grew up, I realized, yeah, I mean, you stuck by your guns, but then everyone around you looked at you and went, oh, it's one of them.
He must have laughed in his face, though.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind he got laughed at.
I wonder if you put that in song lyrics after that, because I would, because that would be like...
I wonder. I couldn't tell you what year that was. So some media is my grandfather absolutely would not 100% verboten Ouija boards.
Yeah.
Did not fucks with Ouija boards. That was a no-go. But as for like movies and music, I wasn't really, but I feel like it'd be pretty safe to say other people in my ward were the family from before, perhaps.
So is the ward like what we call like a congregation?
Probably. It's kind of like a parish.
Okay.
It's like a section on a map where all of those people go to church at a certain time.
Right.
So I was the Bloomington 2nd Ward. I live in Bloomington. It's part of my town, and I'm the 2nd Ward. And every ward comes in at a different time, and they all have different leaders, but they all fall in within a few hours. Every few months they swap it so that you don't have to go to church at the same time every day.
Yes, they used to swap hours like morning and afternoon because they used to do congregations meetings. So I thought it was only fair that one lot has to get up early and then swap it around. So yeah.
Well, that was the thing, because like, it would get to the point where like, yes, I don't have to go to church until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I get to sit around undressed for most of the day. I don't have to put that stupid tie on. And then it gets to the point where, you've had your fun with the one in the afternoon. Now you got to go in at 9. So now from 9 to 12, you're going to be sat there at church.
Well, even if we went in later, though, they'd want us to go door knocking in the morning before the meeting, so that we didn't just get like free time.
Yeah.
So it was just
and again, I'm sure that there are families in my ward that
did the same,
not doing nothing on a Sunday.
I
was kind of, I was a little bit eased up on. I had a lot of energy, you know what I mean? And they didn't want me sitting around, so I kind of got a little bit of free time on a Sunday.
How did you sit through like 3-hour meetings as a kid?
Oh my god!
Because the Jehovah's Witness ones, a Sunday was like an hour and 45 minutes, so nearly 2 hours, and we thought that was a long time, but 3 hours? That's crazy.
So you have it's broken up into 3. So 3-hour meeting. So the first hour, what you do is Sacrament Meeting, which is where everyone sits up. You take the sacrament. It's passed around by the deacons. Deacons are 8 years old. So once you're baptized, you can be a deacon, I believe.
What is the sacrament?
Or it might be 12. Sacrament is white bread and water. And if I believe you asked me about this. You asked me what was one thing that every Mormon would recognize, and I sent you a picture of Lds Sacrament Cups. Yeah. They're these little plastic shot glasses.
I said they look like what we put mayonnaise in at McDonald's.
Right? Yeah, they do kind of look like that, and I'm sure they could be. I'm sure they are somewhere, but no, every Mormon would recognize those.
Right.
And they bring them around. You bring them around. I passed sacrament for a couple years, but yeah, this old tray, and it's got a bunch of white bread on it, ripped up into pieces. You rip it up by hand, and then you have another tray that's got like a metal sheet on top, bunch of holes, and it's got 2 big holes. You take a shot of the sacrament, and then you drop the water in the little hole.
Okay.
You have to give a big prayer every time. Natürlich. After sacrament meeting, so after that's sacrament's gone around, and after everyone has gotten a chance to give a speech, you then break up into individual classes.
Right.
And like when you're a kid, it's mixed gender up until you're, I don't know, 8 or 9 probably when you get baptized. At which point you get put into like smaller classes with elders leading. You get the those with the Aaronic priesthood, not Aaronic, Melchizedek. So those with the Melchizedek priesthood would teach those that are younger. And then just as you get older, you just kind of go up to bigger classes. Every LDS church, it's a big rectangle. You have a smaller rectangle in the middle, and then on the outside of that rectangle, all the way around the big one, you have a bunch of small classrooms, because that's all you're doing. It's 2 hours of just getting indoctrinated, I guess. You read from the Book of Mormon. You sometimes you get sent home with homework of like, hey, read into this topic and write me up something. Man, Will is horny, dude. Are you seeing that?
It's only just come up 3 comments. I haven't looked.
He is bro, someone is horny on Maine, dude.
Do I flash the troll up on screen or do I not?
One track mind. I gotta appreciate that.
Put you in timeout. See you later, mate.
Yeah.
Oh God. There you go. Yeah, I don't think.
Sorry, that threw my whole function off. What were we talking about?
I don't. Can people still see that on YouTube right now if they go and look? I don't know. I've never put someone in timeout before, so I don't know what happened.
On Streamlabs, it isn't there. Go ahead and if you'd like to continue, and I'll pull it up for you.
What was I saying? What was you? Well, I can't remember what you were saying, but I was gonna say, well, at least like it sounds like as kids that you didn't have to participate too much in the meetings, like as children expected to give speeches and stuff like that.
So, yes, kind of. So, in the individual classes, you would be getting like occasionally you'd be told that next week, you have to bring in and talk about something to your little group. And even more occasionally, and also fucking horrifyingly to a 9-year-old with, unbeknownst to him, immense anxiety, is the bishop would come to you and say, hey, Charles, would you like to give a speech in front of the ward tomorrow? And you don't want to look like a dildo in front of the bishop, so you go, absolutely, I would like to. And then you stood up there talking about priestcraft, which is an actual word that they use.
Okay.
I apologize. What was the name of your YouTube channel?
Judge Me Unforgiven.
That's the one.
Actually, I have got a page open.
I'm going to pull this up. Yeah, message deleted. You're good.
Oh, yeah, I deleted. Yeah. Funny. Yes, Will was being a bit crass, as your nan would say.
My nan, yeah.
About me, it was funny. I was half tempted to flash it up or not flash it up, but yeah, just in case my young nieces are watching.
Yeah, there you go.
As a Mormon child, was you expected to like dress a certain way? Was there restrictions with what you can and can't wear?
Not really. As a dude, I pretty much got free reign. Women were still expected to dress modestly. They weren't supposed to show too much thigh, keep those shoulders covered, stuff like that. Not quite, like FLDS, not quite wrists and ankles covered, like, the whole 9 yards, but they were expected to dress modest, which I guess is fair,
What about going to church? Did you have
to church? Now, going to church, here's where the dudes got shafted, because we were expected to wear a button up with a tie, black trousers, jacket every goddamn day of the year. like at church every Sunday. And the only real color we ever got to wear was the tie, but the women all got to wear the super colorful dresses.
Right, yeah.
I felt mighty wronged as a child.
See, I felt bad for guys at the Jehovah's Witness meetings when it was like really hot weather. And if they wanted to carry the microphone around for people to participate in the meeting, they had to wear a suit jacket along with their shirt and tie, no matter like what the weather was. And it's like, that's just ridiculous, because you're not going to do your job any different wearing a suit jacket.
Were your churches air conditioned?
I can't remember, because like I left in 96, but they used to open the fire doors sometimes if it got too hot, but they didn't like doing that, because then obviously kids are looking outside to see what's going on and get distracted, and we hear people walking past and stuff. So they only did that if they really needed to. But it's apparently, I found out after I left, it's quite rare that Kingdom Halls even have windows. A lot of them don't even have windows, so I'm not sure like how their ventilation and air conditioning would go in the hot weather. But we had windows, but they just had metal bars on them.
Mm-hmm. I remember growing up, we had like windows that opened proper. I mean, they had this weird latch, and they didn't open too far. But I remember when I was, oh man, how old was I? I was probably 9 or 10. They went around and they put self-tapping screws into the windowsill so that they wouldn't open too far, because apparently some kids had tried to break into the church, probably to fuck or whatever. I don't know. But like, that just meant that the airflow sometimes wasn't super great. But we did have air-conditioned rooms, which I think was kind of funny because, you have, I don't know, 40 rooms around this whole church, and you have to air condition all of them. So they all have vents, but a lot of the vents share. So sometimes you'd be sitting in a classroom talking about something, and then you could hear the other classes talking through the vents. And very frequently, my classes got a visit telling me to quiet down.
Oh.
I had a lot of volume going. I used to disrupt other meetings.
Funny. So do you remember as a kid, like, did they teach you any what we call doomsday teachings, like fear tactic teachings?
Kind of. So the big thing was something that happens in the LDS church is it's kind of like ATF opinion letters. It's a like a member of the quorum of the 12, or like the president or something. They while they're giving their speeches, they'll occasionally like throw in something, and then that's just kind of accepted as a new rule, even if it isn't like official, like if it's not written down. And one of those is food storage. Mormons are encouraged by the higher ups to keep at least like 2 weeks of non-perishable foods and toilet paper and cleaning and like everything you would need. And they're encouraged to keep at least 2 weeks supply. While that is a good thing,
the end of the world, or
yeah, it was kind of like a do this just in case. Seriously, like it was kind of like that. It was very casual, but a lot of them do it. Pantries are a big thing here.
See, I know a lot of the Jehovah's Witnesses since I've left, they have like I think they call them go-to bags, where they will fill it with like some something to get you through. But like, if full-scale Armageddon or something kicks off, I'm not sure how the contents of that bag is going to keep you sustained for very long anyway. And then if you're supposed to be depending on God, why do you need that go-to bag anyway? So doesn't make sense to me.
All right.
So you said school wasn't too bad for you because most of your fellow students were LDS too. So what about your teen years? Is there anything you remember from your teen?
So I was 14 when I left. I don't know. I remember, especially to get kind of personal, When I started to kind of discover who I was sexually, and then you're being told by pretty much everyone in your life that everything about this is wrong and evil and you're going to hell now, kind of fucks with you a bit. I had a lot of undiagnosed mental shit going on at the time too, and all of that kind of soups together really unpleasantly. And I feel safe in saying that, unlike a lot of the earlier stuff, I don't think this is something just I struggled with. It's
they're not great.
Hmm?
They're not great at, they're not great at accepting sexuality differences either.
Yeah, not really. They had a big kerfuffle with the LGBT community a couple years ago. I don't know if they resolved that. I think they kind of, well, if a member comes out as homosexual, I'm not and I didn't, but in that event, it's kind of up to the bishop how to deal with that.
Right.
I think, which I guess is kind of good and bad. It raises the chances of them being accepted a little bit more, but you know, say la vie. But no, just like normal stuff. Do you know what happens to a person when they go cradle to the grave without masturbating? No one knows what happens. No human being has ever done that. But they're still like drilling into you that it's evil thing. I don't know.
Yes, one thing I was going to ask you about, which I was shocked when I found out through Sam Young, because he was a Mormon bishop, about the worthiness interview.
So we've actually talked about this before, because if I'm not mistaken, that Heathens Against Child Abuse group, this conversation right here is what led to you DMing me. So we've definitely talked about this. So when you get so being raised Mormon, you're the first thing that's just drilled into you constantly is that you want to go to the temple. That's like the number one goal, is you want to get into the temple and experience that. Which, by the way, the temple is where they show weird videos about how God is an alien named Elohim.
I was going to ask you, like, so what is it about the temple that people want to get there?
Yeah, they teach you a bunch of secret handshakes that you're going to need to get into heaven. I'm not making that up either. There are videos on YouTube. I wish for the life of me I could remember the name of the channel, but it's a guy who wears hidden cameras into a temple. It's kind of up to the individual to determine the morality of that, but you know, I don't know. It's a weird place. But when you're young, when you're like 12 and you have your Aaronic priesthood, you can go into the temple to do baptisms for the dead. And I'm pretty sure we've talked about this as well.
Yeah, that's the first time I'd heard about it when you mentioned that.
Yeah, so baptisms for the dead are you acting as a surrogate for someone who has passed on from this world to give them the blessing of a baptism so that they may get into heaven. Which, by the way, this practice pisses a lot of people off, especially the Jewish. I don't know. The part that always stuck with me, by the way, from my first time doing baptisms for the dead, was inside the temple. You get changed. You change into a it's kind of like a big white jumpsuit. But the thing that struck me is the pool that you do the baptisms for the dead in. It's this big, like, marble bathtub kind of thing.
Like one of these?
Yes, it's exactly that right there.
I grabbed some pictures because I thought...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are the creepiest thing. So there's 12 ox there. And, I mean, yeah, like, I understand it's 12 tribes of Israel or whatever, but, like...
Right, okay.
It looks just so esoteric, occult.
So to bring that back up, it's just like, wow, like...
Yeah. I mean, but like when you're a kid and you see that, you think like, oh, majesty, like so awesome. But like, I just always remember thinking about that fucking weird tub, dude. But so to get into the temple, to achieve your grand goal of getting into the temple, you have to get a temple recommend. It's like a little little paper card. Your bishop gives it to you, but it lets you get into the temple.
Right.
To get that, you have to get interviewed. And when you're 12 years old and you have a grown man saying, are you following the word of wisdom, which is the rule like the coffee and the smoking and shit like that. Are you paying your tithe? You have to make sure you're up on your tithe, 10% of every single thing that you make. And then they ask you, so Charles, are you following the law of chastity? Are you masturbating? Have you ever had sex with a girl? Are you keeping your thoughts pure? And that's when 12-year-old me looked a grown-ass man in the eyes and lied to him.
Don't blame you.
Because you're full of anxiety and you're not entirely sure what's happening to you. And you just want this experience to be over.
Yeah, like I was reading an article of some guy it was in a newspaper, and they were saying that like this is like from the age of 8.
Yep.
That would do this, and then they said baptism age 12, and then annually since then. And if I bring up like a part of the article, it was saying that between ages of 16 and 19, you told them that you had a few girlfriends, that you had intimate relationships without having sex. And that resulted in 6 hours of interrogation. And he said that he felt sick from anxiety and asked to leave to go to the toilet, and they wouldn't even let him do that. Like, to me, it's just like, wow. Like,
well,
putting kids through that.
I mean, I was well out of the church before I ever had any sexual encounter. But yeah, that, I mean, I don't know why I told the truth, to be honest.
Yeah, like
it's
if I got told on to the elders, I would just be like, what do you know? What was you told? Because I thought, I'm not going to tell you any more than you know. I'll admit to what I have to, and that's it. I'm not confessing anything.
Well, I mean, admit to what you don't have to admit anything.
But then, like
16 to 18, shit, he's an adult now. Like,
but then if your friends grass on you, you don't want to call your friend a liar, so you kind of just like, yeah.
I don't know. It's just.
So
it feels like I understand. I can understand the mental gymnastics needed to get to the point where you say, yeah, we should ask these questions to another human being. But like the way that they're asked, especially in that the way that he described it, and from what I can remember, as well as I believe I told you, I was talking to another gal I know who grew up Mormon, and again, she was a child being asked similar questions to what he was being asked. But it's just the way that when they ask it and they make it sound so predatory, you know what I mean? Did you make her orgasm? Did you touch her? What did you do? It's like they're just looking for, the juicy details. Yeah. It feels odd.
JW elders do that to people. They ask them all like the gory details, and yeah, that type of thing just makes me like shudder, like dirty old men, like. Ugh. So, did you feel pressured into getting baptized?
Absolutely. I mean, because they teach you from a young age, like, your whole family's Mormon. You want to be Mormon. You want to be baptized, and they're always hyping up. Yes, Mary. It sometimes it feels like that. But they also one of the things that they drill into you is that when you're baptized, you're a new human being and every sin is forgiven. And I mean, when you're 8 years old, you haven't sinned. I was thinking to myself, fuck, I should have waited. I should have got some use out of that. You know what I mean? Wait until I was like 15, get some sinning in. But no, they definitely they hype it up, and then you do it, and it feels when you're told what to feel, like when you're told how you should feel about it, you feel it. You get dunked under the water and it feels magical. It feels like you're, transcendent. But then you think about it and you're like, well, they just dunked me in some warm water. You know what I mean?
See, I got that.
I should say, I'm sorry. I should say, I'm sure not every bishop is predatory about it. I don't want to generalize. Some of them, I'm sure, I mean, Sam Young. Some of them dislike it just as much as we do.
Well, that's what made him leave in the end, wasn't
Yeah.
it? So, like, there are.
But I mean, didn't he say he wouldn't have left if they had addressed it?
Yeah, I think that was one of his issues. Yeah, I can't
It's
remember what
been a minute. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'd love to get Sam on and do like a more in-depth chat with Sam.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting man.
Yeah. Lovely man as well. Like.
Yeah.
So.
Hmm?
So years ago, when a Mormon knocked on my door, they told me that you're only expected to do the ministry for 2 years. Is that right?
So I don't know how you mean by ministry.
Going around door knocking, trying to recruit, basically.
So mission. So it's the Mormon mission. And I was actually just the other day while I was chatting with you, I was talking with a gal I grew up with who just got back from her mission. So a mission, which you're expected to fund yourself, by the way.
Interesting.
You are sent to MTC, the Mission Training Center, and you are told where you're going to go. They say you're called. You're called for a mission, right?
Okay.
So you will be called. You'll be told where you're going, and you could go pretty much anywhere on Earth. There's some countries that don't really allow it. Obviously, we're not door knocking in North Korea, but you're told where you're going to go. You're brought to the MTC, and then you're just kind of blasted with everything you need to know to speak the language. You in the span of 3 months, you get a language just forced into your brain as fast as possible, and then you're sent out. And you get to your mission. You talk to your mission president, someone who oversees, the missionaries of a certain area, and then you go out and spread the good word. And yes, you are only expected to do that for 2 years.
Okay.
So, common ones are Spanish-speaking American missions. So, for instance, my friend did a Spanish-speaking mission in, I think, Washington, up in the Northwest. I had a guy on my street who went to Russia, which, by the way, when you come back from your mission, it's a big thing, because you're back. You've been gone for 2 years. But they'll get you up in front of the podium, and you will give a big old speech. It takes up a lot of Sacrament Meeting. You'll give this huge speech, and then you give the same speech traditionally in the language that you served your mission on. So the Russian guy, he came back, he gave a speech, and then he gave the same speech in Russian. Only 2 years. Only 2 years. It's a big part of your life. However, once you're older, you can do a second mission. And a lot of the time, married couples do it together.
Right.
Like a married couple will, when they're older, in their 60s, they'll go out and give a second mission together. Which, power to them, I guess. My grandfather actually served his in London.
Okay.
So he spent 2 years there, and he cannot do a British accent to save his life. But, oh boy, howdy does he think he can.
Right, okay. So is there a certain age that you get to that if you hadn't done a mission yet, they'd start questioning you? Like, why haven't you done one yet?
When you're over 18, it's kind of expected that you're going to do it. Now, some bishops will allow, they consider doing a mission and enlisting in the armed forces as the same thing. So, for instance, in my neighborhood, there is a family, funnily enough, the same family from before, the frickin' A kid. It was his older brother. He enlisted in the army and did a couple tours in Iraq, and they just considered that the same spiritual journey as doing a mission. Because I guess getting 3 Purple Hearts and a couple of Bronze Stars was equal in terms of spiritual sacrifice to go around for 2 years knocking on doors. And Mary, yes, they do. It's pretty much every waking moment of the day.
Intense.
They get a little bit of free time, not a lot. I think they get like just a little bit of free time a week.
Because I remember the last Mormons, those ones that told me that, they knocked on my door and they said to me, "You're listening to Cold." I was like, "That's like a metal band. How do you know who Cold is?" And they were like, "Oh, because we're big fans of Cold. We just can't listen to them for 2 years while we're doing the ministry." And I just thought, that's not fair. As witnesses, we were never allowed to listen to any metal whatsoever. It doesn't matter if it was just 2 years that we had to stay away from it. And then they were like, "Do you want me to do anything for you?" I was like, "What do you mean? Do you want me to do your garden?" Or I was like, "We've got some washing up you can do if you want." And they're like, "Yeah, we'll do it." And I got, "No, I'm only joking, like, seriously." And they left me with the Book of Mormon and they said to me, "Will you read this certain chapter?" And they showed it me. And it was about the 3 levels of heaven. So you've got, if I've got this breakdown right, celestial, terrestrial, and telestial. And like, basically, I think was I the last one where I'm a sinner, I know it, I'm not going to change, and I don't care. And I think they kind of knew that, and then they never came back. So I've still got the Book of Mormon floating around somewhere.
So the one of the things that the Mormon missionaries do is they do just odd jobs, because one of the big things in the LDS church is like the community. Everyone, you know, every now and then my grandfather would come in and be like, "All right, put on some work shoes. We're going over to pull some weeds in this guy's yard."
Right.
And everyone in the ward would come over to this guy's lot and just pick a whole bunch of weeds, you know. But they do that as well while they're doing missions because, you know, they want to seem nice. They want to get you on their side. As for the 3 levels of heaven, yeah, it's the first one, yeah, like you said, you know, you're not baptized, but I mean, they assume you're going to get baptized after you die, by the way.
But I was going to ask you that earlier, if I could just interrupt there. How can you make a decision for a dead person whether they want to be baptized into a religion or not?
Exactly. That's why the Jewish people are very upset.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember beforehand when you told me about that, I was just like, yeah, it doesn't really make
sense. They justify it to themselves by saying that they're saving your soul. But
then what if that person's already, I don't believe in heaven and hell personally, but then what if that person believes they've already gone to heaven anyway? What?
Right.
They don't need to get baptized?
Again. Comes back around. That's why the Jewish people are upset. They want to go to their heaven, not ours. So the really interesting one is the celestial. So I kind of mentioned it offhand earlier. Something that they don't teach openly, this is something you only learn when you go into the temple, is Elohim. And Elohim is God. That's God's name, I guess. And him and the Holy Spirit created Earth because they also got to get into the celestial version of heaven. So if we all accept Jesus, accept God, Elohim, learn all our secret passwords, learn our spiritual names. We all have a spiritual name that you learn when you're in the temple. I never learned mine.
Okay.
But once you've learned all that and you get into the celestial heaven, you get to be a god. And then from there, you get to go and create your own world and put your own people on that and be your own version of the Mormons, you know? It's a... Okay. I remember having a lot of fun as a kid fantasizing about what my world would look like. And then I realized, shit, there's no way I'm getting into that heaven. I do not keep up on my tithe. I'm not paying the church 10% of my income. There's no way I'm going to get to be God. The sentences you get to say when you're a Mormon out of context. It's one of those things.
So was dating restricted? Like, was you only supposed to date another fellow Mormon or marry another fellow Mormon?
It was just kind of, as far as I'm aware, it was just kind of implied. That's just kind of what happened. Now, I will say this. I do still keep getting letters from the Young Adult Singles Ward.
Okay.
The Mormon Church has a Young Adult Singles Ward for young adult singles with the goal of finding your forever partner.
Hook up with each other, right? Okay.
While learning church stuff. Yeah. I still get letters from them. Wow. And by letters, I mean the Young Adult Singles Ward bishop keeps leaving notes on my doorstep. They want me to go find a nice Mormon girl and settle down.
What? Even now, after all this time?
I should just show up to church dressed like I do now with the
Yeah,
knife tattoo and the septum ring and the
let your hair down and
just let my hair down and show up. I'm like, yo, what up? Where are the singles at?
wear a Slayer t-shirt and just like, yeah.
No, it'd be like McGraw or Krieg's Machine or something.
They wouldn't know that though. You need something that they know. Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
If you do it, I will print and send you an Aerosmith t-shirt if you promise to wear it.
There is no way they would get that reference. There's no way any of them remember that. I have no idea how I do. Oh my god.
I told you my story to do with Aerosmith because I must have been like 20 because I was close to leaving home and I went and brought the that's tickled you, innit?
That did. That was fucking funny.
I brought the Aerosmith Best of album, and while I was at work, obviously my stepdad used to go and mooch around my CDs and listen to them. And I got back home, and this CD that was there next to him on the kitchen table, I'm like, he's like, you need to throw this away. I was like, why? He says, because I've listened to it, and one song says, "Dude looks like a lady." Obviously, that's not allowed as a Jehovah's Witness. And the other song, he said, it says SHIT in it. I was like, okay. And then he was like, you need to throw it away. And I was like, I've just paid $14.99 for that. Like, this is in the 90s when CDs were expensive. I said, I'm not throwing it away. And he says, well, you're not allowed to play that in this house. So I literally just thought, well, that's just going to go on the pile with all the other CDs I'm not allowed to play. All the other clothes I'm not allowed to wear because I knew I was going to be leaving soon. So we're just kind of like, okay, whatever. But having your CD collection gone through by your dad while he was at work was not fun.
I'll put this Aerosmith CD next to my shirt that shows my shoulders and my skirt that shows my knees.
I'm just catching up on Mary's comments. Yeah. Is there any space for personhood?
Now, can you define the word personhood, Mary?
Is that like being yourself, personality?
I'll wait for a reply, but I'll answer the rest of these while I wait. Let's see. Just gave up on creating your own. Yeah, I mean, you know, no way I'm making it into that one. I got shit.
Yes,
you seen my internet browsing history, Mary? There's no way I'm making it to Celestial. I don't even know, Mary. I don't even know my spirit name.
Oh yeah, pentagram. That would be a good option.
I need like that one specific pentagram shirt. You know what I mean? The one with no sleeves. You see slightly chubby girls wearing it sometimes. You know what I mean?
If you could remember your spiritual name, you could put it in like the death metal writing.
Now you say, remember, I never got told. I never made it to the temple. And there's no way I qualify for a temple recommend now.
In it, just say, I didn't qualify. I demand to know my spiritual name.
Just show up at the temple with a bomb on my chest.
I
gotta know! That scene from Tommy Boy. It's that scene from Tommy Boy. Oh, this isn't dynamite. These are road flares.
So I'm guessing like it was only heterosexual marriages, relationships.
Mm-hmm. That friend that I mentioned, the one who did the Spanish-speaking Washington mission, I believe her father actually came out as a homosexual and naturally divorced. And I don't know really what he's doing now, but I'm pretty sure that this friend and her family are still active. But yeah, I don't know. So a few years ago, I think it was back in 2012, the LDS Church came out and said that they were not going to allow children to get baptized if they were adopted by homosexuals. Okay. And that caused a bit of a kerfuffle. And then I believe Sam clarified for us that this had been kind of put up to the discretion of the bishop. So I think there's a couple of guidelines that they kind of follow, but they say as long as you're still devout. Some of them say as long as you don't fuck dudes, which is kind of cruel to say to the people who are attracted to dudes. But, you know, I mean, it's better than just straight up excommunicating them, I guess. Because, I mean, I'm sure there are, you know, if you go on Exmo subreddits or even Mormon subreddits, there's plenty of people, you know, with homosexual feelings, but they still, you know, they still believe wholeheartedly in the word of Joseph Smith. So I think it is. I do kind of feel bad for them.
Mm. So
I
Merlin.
my own personal motto, like my own personal thing, has been whatever gets you through the day. You need a
Mm.
joint and a glass of whiskey at the end of the day, sure. You know, do you need God? Great. Just don't. If you don't push it on me, I literally don't care. It's fine.
Push a whiskey on me, but not your God. That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Mm.
But
So
and because of that, I kind of empathize. I guess like it sucks for them. They born a certain way, but they still. Man, God's got a sixth sense of humor. I'll tell you that. That's the difference between me and them. Both of our gods have six senses of humor, but at least I'm self aware about it. That's a
yeah,
true thing.
but you can have a sixth sense of humour and not be an arsehole for no reason, which God obviously is. But yeah, let's not get into that right now.
Personhood, development of your own critical thinking skills, your beliefs, your own path in life, how you dress, how you interact. We've kind of answered a couple of those towards the beginning, I believe. To the latter ones. Path in life, yeah. I mean, don't be a porn star, I guess, but like the rest of it, that they don't really like micromanage you to that level. Beliefs, they encourage you to get a lot of your information from the church naturally, especially when it's information about the church. There's a couple of good YouTube channels. There's one who does videos on Jehovah's Witnesses. I believe he is a former J-Dub, but he also has done a couple videos on the LDS church. And one of them is this thing that they show us in those little classes I mentioned, where this guy, his bishop encourages him to go talk to this neighbor kid and try and get him to come to church. And he goes there and it doesn't work. So he just gives up and leaves. And then it's like Groundhog Day, where he wakes up the same morning every day and he's got to try and convince this kid to be a Mormon. And eventually he does it by being kind of manipulative. The video talks about it. I wish I could find it. If I send you a link later, if you want to, post it on social media or something. But it's that so that goes into your beliefs. Critical thinking skills. I was 14. I didn't have any. How you dress? I mean, yeah, as long as you're not, as long as you're kind of modest. Find semblance of who you were as the wording on that kind of, do you think you could clarify that?
See, me, I didn't feel like me. Like, I just felt like a Jehovah's Witness. And I think I was saying to Mary that even when I went shopping and walked around, I'd be thinking people are looking at me thinking, they know I'm a Jehovah's Witness. They know. I just felt like it wasn't me. Like, and now I look back and I think me as a Jehovah's Witness wasn't me. It was like it was just a completely different time zone. It's weird. I think I was just totally disconnected from that time in my life.
I do kind of feel that. I do. I mentioned to you when you're raised kind of like the way I was, where everything is filtered. It kind of, by extension, puts all of your thoughts through a filter, and it is kind of like living. It is kind of like just being in a haze, just living like that. It's the way some antidepressants hit some people. You know what I mean? It's like you're just doing that. That's your thing.
Yeah, when you said that sentence to me, it resonated with me. When you said, "Oh, it's like all your thoughts have run through a filter," I thought.
And at the time,
I never thought about it like that, but that's exactly what's happening.
And like at the time, you don't think about it. You don't think about that's what's going on. You trust your parents, you trust your bishop, and you just kind of roll with it. But when you think about it later, yeah, you are just kind of, it's just putting a screen in your brain, just stopping the wrong think. I feel like any of that was me. I mean, it's all I knew, I don't really know.
So what made you eventually leave? Mormonism in the end? Because you were quite young, weren't you, when you left?
I rationalized it to myself by saying that I was going to try out a bunch of different religions and see which one stuck with me. And I just didn't. I knew deep down, I didn't want to admit it to myself, but I knew deep down organized religion just wasn't for me, you know? I just wanted to be able to think my own thoughts.
Yeah.
So went
It's
ahead
like
and got out of there.
when I left it, I just wanted a life, and I couldn't have a life. And like I was saying earlier, I couldn't be me, like, and I just felt like, yeah.
You want to think what you want to think, and you want to do what you want to do, and you want to. If I wanted to be controlled every hour of the day, I'd enlist, you know?
Yeah.
If I wanted to be told what to think, I'd sign the dotted line.
And how did your family react, especially being such a young age? Was you 14 when you left? Like, how did they react?
I think my grandpa thought it was just a phase. Like my grandpa and my grandma, I think they thought it was just a phase. My mother was kind of indifferent. Like, because I feel like my mother was just in it because grandpa made her go. So I don't know. It was better than it could have been. You know, it could have been a lot worse. Overall, I think I got pretty lucky that I wasn't, shunned by any member of my family. Members of the church, I mean, shunning isn't as big of a thing for the LDS because, again, there's that feeling of community and there's that thought process of, well, if we're clearly he's unhappy with something, so let's try and make him happy and get him back, you know? So I've never had like a confrontation. I still see former like people I used to be in my ward. That again, same kid, the frickin' A kid. It's a Korean family, and she's super nice. She still hugs me every time she sees me, which is terrifying because I feel like I'm going to shatter every bone in her body. She's tiny. No, it's not bad. I think I think I got a little bit. I got lucky.
It's nice to hear, though, that somebody who was in such an intense religion can then come out of it without really harsh repercussions.
Oh, and there are people in this town who are not so lucky, you know. I am fortunate.
Cool.
Whew.
Okay.
All right, what next? Is that everything?
I think we covered, unless there's anything you wanted to add. Covered all my notes. But it's been good, like learning stuff that a lot of people won't know. Like I said, I loved having Mary on because ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot in common with the Amish, and then people who do eventually discover the videos get to learn about other people. And we were saying the other day as well, now it's never been like this before, where you've got ex-Jehovah's Witness, ex-Amish and Ex Mormon all standing up together against each of our individuals' ex-churches. We're all taking each other's like sides and having each other's back and saying to them all, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong.
That right there is the fun thing about the internet age, though. One of my best friends lives in Warsaw. I've met her once in my life. One of my best friends. I have really great friends. I've never seen their face. That's the beauty of the internet, is that we all get this. We all get this moment. Just stand up to that fucking organized religion.
Yep.
No. I mean, still, if religion's for you, go for it. Whatever gets you through the day.
Definitely not for me.
This light, I should. You know what? I'm realizing now, an hour and almost 2 minutes into this, that I definitely should have adjusted the color temperature of that light, because that is not doing nice things to my complexion.
I didn't notice, to be honest.
Should I just, while we're wrapping up, should I just?
You can do if you want.
This is how professional streams work, right?
I wouldn't know.
How's this one?
That's a cooler tone.
Turn that up a bit.
I was before that was like very yellow before, yeah.
Yeah, or I could do like, how's this one? It's a little bit better. It makes it a little bit more pink than purple, but
your hair
fuck it.
looked a better colour before though. You can't really see the whole glory of the redness when you
Yeah. What if I?
tail.
That shows it off.
Definitely brings out the red, yes.
Right. This is. I think let's stick with this. Or I mean, I could just do the rest of the show like this.
Like a disco in the background.
Yeah, just turn on the strobe lights. Sorry.
No, we have to have humour, especially when discussing like deep topics kind of thing. So I know you left young, but is there any advice you would give, say, if a young Mormon comes across this video who doesn't want to be a Mormon anymore? Is there anything you'd advise them to do?
I'd say be safe about it. You know, maybe kind of feel out your parents, see how they feel about you being an individual. Stick by your guns, but you know, I think it's up to the individual how far you're willing to go. Really, I mean, if you're at risk of getting kicked out of your parents' house for thinking differently, it might be better to just kind of nod and pretend for a bit. I don't know. That's up to everyone. I will say, you know, funnily enough, this brings us full circle with TGT. I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
So I will say this. If you are having trouble with any religion, and one of the big problems with the thoughts pushed onto you is sometimes that'll take you to a dark place. And I will say, avoid that as best you can. There are plenty of free resources available everywhere. Utilize those. There's a suicide chat hotline and a 24-hour chat. Most countries have one. If they don't, I'm sure there is one available nearby. I'd say utilize everything you can for that, because you got to keep yourself ticking.
Yep. Show
that fucking religion that they're just holding you back.
And no, Mary. Porn is satanic. That's not allowed.
Is porn satanic? I think I actually was told that at one point, that the devil is responsible for porn.
Yeah, I read that. Mormon satanic yesterday. But for what you were saying as well, I've run a group on Facebook for 12 years. Ex Jehovah's Witnesses Unite, where Ex Mormon, Ex Amish, Ex Baptist in there, anyone that's welcome, anyone that needs support, needs to rant, needs to speak to people that have been through the same experience, then come and join, because you're welcome.
How's that Linkin Park song go?
Which one?
No? Roads Untraveled. The last line.
God. Yeah, now you're asking.
So something, and if you need a friend, there's a seat here alongside me. That should be the tagline of your group. There you go.
Think mine's what we've all came on different boats. I don't know, but ended up at the same destination or something. I can't even remember. Yeah. It's been there that long that now I just see it and don't even think about what it says anymore.
I feel.
Yeah. So, any last words to wrap up before we?
I think I've covered it. I think I'm good.
I think we got all the basics.
It's fun chatting with you.
Yeah, it has been fun, you know.
I'm sorry I was so blank-headed today. I didn't get much sleep.
That's fine. You did good. You taught us lots.
It's fun teaching people about the little things, you know, things like the baptismal pool with the ox, or the hilarious reactions to a 3-hour church service.
But it's all things you don't realise as an outsider, like what goes on. So,
you know what? 3-hour church services, and you know what? I deliver pizzas for a living, which means I drive around a lot of this town. And there are a lot of places in this town where there are two churches right next to each other.
Okay.
There's like every neighborhood I deliver to, there's at least one LDS church. Sometimes there's two. There's three on the same road in one spot. Like,
wow.
For a 3-hour service. That's how many of them there are around here. And they get, it's community. And I'm sure those communities are great to live in if you're part of that community.
Yeah, I can imagine. See here, all like the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall meeting places, they're being sold off. Like there used to be 2 halls in my town, and one's been sold off. So yeah, like they're getting less and less, which is cool.
Well, that's a good thing. All right.
And I guess we'll fuck off then.
You know what you need? You need a short script, like a 30-second just burner to throw in at the end of the episode.
Well, I kept saying to Mary, I said to Mary the other day, I was sitting going, because you click end broadcast, but it doesn't end straight away. So I'm there looking back, like, are we still live? Have we gone yet? So I need to like do an outro video or something just to take us off screen, just for like the end few awkward seconds where we keep going, bye.
Well, like, so this show here is XYZ. That's the name of it.
Yeah, because I thought.
So something like this. Thank you for joining us both on XYZ. Please remember to give this a positive rating on whatever platform you're viewing it on. And be sure to tell a friend if you think they would enjoy it. We'll see you next week for another episode with another guest. Pretend she said all of that. now in the stream, like right now.
I don't like asking people for likes or subscriptions, though, because I think if they're going to do it, if they want to do it, they would do it. I don't want to pressure people into doing it. But then I also realise sometimes I watch a video and think that's really good, and then I click off and then I'm like, oh, I didn't like the video. But if they'd have said in the video, like the video, it would have reminded me. But
like, also, it does give you that little, like, 15, 20 seconds at the end. You wrap up, and then at the end of it, you're done. Yeah, it feels kind of like a goober asking for likes and subscriptions, but, I feel like this isn't I feel like we shouldn't be having this conversation live. I feel like this right here is the mark.
Right. And on that note, we're going to fuck off backstage. So thank you for commenting and thank you for watching. And I hope you enjoyed learning some new stuff about Mormonism. And I'm going to awkwardly wave bye now. What would this sound while I click the leave?
Stay frosty.
See you later. Bye.